What steps should you take to live your life financially free? Let's get down to business. Hey everyone, I'm Brandon, I'm a CPA, and today we're going to talk about the 6 steps to financial freedom. And a quick note before we get started. If you want to receive 2 free stocks valued up to $1,200 using a trading platform called Webull, click on the link in the description below. All you have to do is set up an account and deposit $100. So let's get on to the video. First things first, we have to define what financial freedom is. People have different definitions. What I like to define it as is having 0 debt and having enough money to live comfortably in retirement. And so this video is going to be more tailored towards a traditional career path to get you to that point in retirement. Step number 1, invest in your company's 401k up to the company match. This follows a few basic principles, one that your parents have probably told you, other finance people have probably told you. You have to pay yourself first. When you invest in your 401k, that's money that you don't exactly see in your bank account. It flows directly into an investment account. And the cherry on top is that if you're investing up to the company match, your company that you work for is also contributing some money into your retirement for you. If the company you work for offers a 401k match, I highly recommend that you invest up to that amount, because otherwise you're really losing out on compound interest from the time you start investing up until the time of your retirement, and you're losing out on the free money your company would otherwise be contributing for you anyway. So definitely do this. Step number 2, save 1 month of expenses in an emergency fund. A pretty common statistic out there floating around is that 40% of Americans don't have enough money to cover a $400 emergency expense. You do not want to be part of this statistic. Especially now with everything going on, it's more prudent than ever to save for a rainy day, save for an emergency, save for an appliance breaking or for a layoff. It's really important to have this fund available so that way if any emergency does happen, you can at least stay afloat for a month. And I recommend putting this money in a high yield savings account. And I'm gonna use high yield in quotes here because they're not exactly high yield anymore. The ones you see online now are about 1% and probably will likely to continue to decrease. But the reason why I recommend this is because it's important to keep this fund liquid and not necessarily put in any other traditional investment account because it'll really mitigate the risk of being tempted to put it into other riskier investments. Step 3, pay off your bad debt. Some people also call this dumb debt, but what this essentially means is paying off anything that has an exorbitantly high interest rate. So what this is unpaid credit card balances, car loans, even student loans, really anything of that sort that has a high interest rate and also doesn't contribute toward an asset like a mortgage, for instance. So what you want to do is pay these off as soon as possible. I recommend paying off the highest interest amount first and then going down that way. Some people like to use another method called the snowball method, and what that is paying the smallest dollar amount first. So for example, if you have a $100 loan, a $500 loan, and a $10,000 loan, you would start with the smallest one first. I don't really like using that method because you're essentially wasting money. It's best to pay off the higher interest ones first. But again, it's really up to preference and what works with your needs. Either way, it's important to get these debts erased off of your personal balance sheet. That way you can move on to the next step and move towards a financially free life. Step 4, save 3 to 6 months of expenses in a savings account. So this is going to be another emergency fund that you want to start building up after you've paid off all your debts. This is important because this is a vast step up from the 1 month saving account and can really help you in a time of crisis. If you have a medical emergency that's really expensive, or if you got laid off for a long time, this will really help you to stay afloat in uncertain times, especially like the ones we're living in right now. And the reason why there is a range between 3 to 6 months, you can even go higher if you want, but the reason why is because you have to factor in, 1, your risk tolerance, and also your career type. So for instance, If you're in a career field where maybe it's harder to find a job, then you might want to gear towards saving 6 months of expenses. But if you're in a field where, let's just say IT or computer science, something along those lines where the jobs are really all over the place and there's a lot of opportunity, it might make sense for you to save only 3 months, whereas somebody else who may have less opportunity might want to save 6 months. Again, it's all dependent on your personal risk tolerance and what you want to decide you want to save for your plan. I also recommend that you put this emergency fund in pretty liquid or pretty safe investments. So you can either put it in a high yield savings, bonds, and also index funds. You can do a mixture of the three. You can do just one. It's really, again, up to your risk tolerance, but you want to make sure that these amounts are safe and as liquid as possible. Even during our current crisis, we've seen index funds fall fairly sharply. So those might not even be as safe an investment during volatile times. So that's something to take into consideration in your personal risk tolerance and your plan. Step number 5, invest 20% of your gross income into index funds. So once you've completed the previous step and have saved your emergency fund between 3 to 6 months, the next step is really to start putting your money to work and having your money build and grow for your retirement. And that means putting away 20%. And again, this falls in the same category as step number 1, paying yourself first. And the way you can do this is adding more into your 401k, including some in an IRA, and also just using an individual stock brokerage account to make these investments. And I recommend putting them in index funds because on average, they gain about 7% per year. They're fairly safe, and the compound effect of investing regularly over time is exponential. So it's important that we start early and try to get these steps out of the way so that way you can start building your wealth for your retirement. Another thing I recommend is also automating this. This way you're not swayed from pulling out of the market during volatile times or making a risky investment based off of fear or greed. The point of this is to continually invest month over month over month over month. That way, over time, all those ups and downs and the volatility average out. Step number 6, pay off your remaining debt and use your excess funds to make other investments. So at this point in the process, you should have a pretty solid foundation. You should have your investments at 20% being automated. And really, the only thing left you have to worry about is paying off the remainder of your debt and also using any excess funds to invest in maybe some higher risk investment options. In retirement, one of the largest expenses that most retirees face is actually living expenses, the majority of which are either in the forms of mortgage or rent payments. Ideally, you'd want to have a mortgage, and at this point, you really want to work towards paying that off completely. That way you can use your retirement funds to live. You can either take a vacation or use it to make investments or really whatever you want. But the idea is you want to limit the amount of expenses you have in retirement, and paying off your debts is a great way to do so. And after you've paid off all your debt, you can really use your excess funds to invest in whatever you want. You can be a venture capitalist, you can play in the stock market, you can really take more risks that maybe you wouldn't feel more comfortable doing before because you have that solid base. And that's it. Congratulations. If you followed all the steps, you should be financially free already or on the path toward financial freedom. You have no debts at this point, a hefty retirement fund, and minimal expenses. So at this point, you can live your life happy, without worry, no stress, ideally, at least no financial stress, and living comfortably in retirement. So now a couple questions for you. What step are you in your journey to financial freedom? And is there anything different that you would add into my steps that I've created here in this video? Leave it in the comment section below. And if you made it this far, I'd really appreciate it if you would leave a like on this video and also subscribe to my channel. Also, please click the bell icon. Helps notify you whenever I make a new video. If you know anybody that could really use this information in the video, please feel free to share it with them. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.